All right, welcome back, guys, to another weekly prediction. So right now, I have the scores pulled up from last week. What we guessed. I'll switch between the scores and our predictions so you guys can see what we guessed. But starting off with over the week, overall, I think we both did really poorly because there were a lot of weird games this week, like we thought there would be. Uh,
It was a strange week in the NFL.
yeah, it was a really weird week, and I didn't like some of the games were just strange. Like starting out with the first game, 12-9 win for the Colts. Went into
What
overtime. That was
was
a snooze fest. There was
and
nothing
what
to
was
even talk
possibly
about.
like the ugliest game.
Yeah, the
When
Broncos.
Russell Wilson completely messed things up on the goal line, and
He
the
missed
Broncos aren't
KJ
looking
Hamler
good.
wide open in the end zone.
Yeah, the
Complete
Broncos aren't looking good at all.
complete snooze fest. Uh, Going to the Packers game, we both picked the Packers going into that game, and the Giants. Now, I don't want to go into this game or take this game too far out of proportion because while yes the Giants did win, this isn't the Packers of old. Okay, this like say they did this last season, then I'd say the Giants are for real. But the Giants still really haven't played anybody, in my opinion. They lost to the Cowboys, whose defense looks insane. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I mean, they still haven't. The Packers are struggling this season, and then they played Carolina, who could be the worst team in the league. They've played. Oh, who else have they played? I believe. Have they played the Commanders yet? I don't think they
No,
have.
I don't think so.
Let's look at their past games. So they played the Bears. Obviously, that's an easy win. They lost to the Cowboys, and they played the Panthers. Oh, and the Titans, who again haven't really done anything yet this season. So I wouldn't really put that too far. Like, be happy about that too much if I'm a Giants fan. But that's still a shocking win. And Saquon is wow. That's really hard. Saquon is looking the best he has. He's the leading rusher in the NFL, over 500 yards already. I believe he has 560 through 5 games. So Saquon is popping off. He had a big game, 70 yards and a touchdown, plus another 3 for 36 receiving. Daniel Jones is doing what they can to just work around him, and I mean it's working for
Yeah,
him. Uh, but yeah, that was a shocking game to me, in my opinion. Going to the next game, which I believe was Detroit at New England. This was another one that surprised
yeah.
me.
Like the Lions got completely
And
blanked by the Patriots.
we both picked the Lions to win this game. And you know what I think this was? I think this was just the one of the
Bailey
best.
Zappi.
No, I think this was just one of the best coaches in NFL history scheming up to be a offense that is very one dimensional. DeAndre Swift was out, so that was big for them. Uh, Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't really do much. Jared Goff was just shut down the entire game. The defense just kind of shut down the Lions offense, who was the top scoring offense in the league coming into this game. Uh,
Yeah, that is. I didn't expect this. When I saw the score, I was quite shocked. I knew, obviously it's Belichick, but 29-0 with Bailey
yeah,
Zappi and a quarterback.
yeah. Look at their Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4 for 18. He was shut down. Josh Reynolds,
Yeah,
he's kind of stepping up. Josh Reynolds is. I mean, 6 receptions for 92 yards. He has multiple five. I want to say multiple 5 reception games now at this point. Look at his reception numbers over the past couple of weeks. So I mean, he's been making a decent splash in Detroit. He looks like he's finding himself there. And Bailey Zappi didn't really have that great of a game. 17 for 21, 188 yards and a touchdown and interception. I mean, that's not great, but that's not terrible. Ramondre Stevenson, 25 carries for 161 yards and a touchdown. Or he didn't have a touchdown, but 161 yards. I dropped him in one of my fantasy leagues. I'm
I
not
picked him
happy.
up.
Huh?
I
I
picked him up.
I think. Oh, did you pick him up in this league?
I think
Because
I
I
tried.
thought he was still on the waivers because I tried to pick him up because in our league I have like all the decent running backs.
Yeah, I don't.
So I was So I tried to pick him up just for trade pieces because I have like Jeff Wilson and I got rid of. I sent you Jonathan Taylor. So I mean, I'm not really, I'm not sure, but I thought I'd just try to pick him up. But yeah, I mean, the Lions just got shut down altogether. They did okay total yardage wise. I mean, they were around the same part, but 4 for 12 on third downs, and the big part of it, 0 for 4 on 0 for 6 on fourth down. That is a huge loss. You can't win games like that. So that was a big loss for them. Going to the next game, Houston at Jacksonville, which this was another one I think we both picked Jacksonville on.
What about? I thought it was the. We'll do Chargers Browns after, but yeah, the Texans they just shut down the Jaguars.
Yeah, Jacksonville looked rough in this game.
Both teams did. David Mills had 140 yards passing. So
This was a weird game. This was kind of like that Bills Jaguars game from last season. Like the Bills looked like they should be a really good team, and then the Jaguars just come out and shut them down. And I want to say the final of that game was 9-6. So this was another weird game. Dameon Pierce a yard short of 100 yards. So I mean that was just another weird game that didn't kind of just sat weird. I mean, then I want to look at Trevor Lawrence. I mean, 2 interceptions. That's not great. That killed him. 25 for 47. That's a lot of passes, but just under 300 yards. That's not terrible. Travis Etienne and James Robinson, 50-50 workload, and Etienne outran James Robinson by a mile. So, I mean, that's big for Etienne fantasy owners and Jaguars fans since he was a first-round pick. So, plus another 3 for 43 receptions. So, that was just a poor game from Jacksonville altogether. That's not one that you want to see if you are Jacksonville. Next, we'll talk about the Cleveland Chargers game, which, in my opinion, I thought the Chargers should have handled the Browns easily, and the Browns look good.
They ran all over each other. Both teams had ball carries that had over 100.
Yeah, I want to say
Austin Eckler had
170, I think.
173 yards on 16 carries, and Nick Chubb had 134 on 17 carries. And they both had good secondary runners as well with decent stats. So really no run defense. The Chargers I'm a little worried about because I think that, like you said, this is a game they should have handled
Just fine, yeah. So, I mean, that it looked like the Browns were gonna blow the Chargers out of the water. I want to say at one point they were up 14-0. So it looked like the Browns were just gonna blow the Chargers out of the water, and then the Chargers climbed back and put it away. So it looked like it was a decent game. Now, I didn't get to watch it completely. I'm gonna be obviously we can't watch every single game every single week, and it's something that's really hard to look at, especially I was seeing the stats on the Eagles game, which we'll look at later, but Jalen Hurts had 2 rushing touchdowns. Looking at that, you think he ran those in from distance. They were 2 quarterback sneaks on the goal line. So just looking at the box score doesn't give the full game summary, but I know the Chargers were down by a lot at one point and then came back and overtook the Browns and just kind of killed them. The Falcons-Buccaneers game, this one, the one thing that the Buccaneers won like we both predicted. The one thing that I wanted to talk about,
pass interference call.
I wasn't.
What on earth
No,
is
I was
that?
talking about the roughing the passer call.
Yeah.
Oh, you said pass interference, but yeah, the roughing the passer call, that was
That was
huge.
horrible.
I don't think that
was
should have been roughing the passer.
Worst roughing the passer call I've ever seen for a solid 12 hours.
Yeah, that was a terrible call. So I didn't like that call at all, and that I wouldn't. Yes, it changed the game. I wouldn't say that is the reason that the Falcons lost, though. But I think it's just more about quarterback safety. Yeah, but I mean, just think that was on a third down that gave them a first down. But if they do stop them there, that makes it a fourth down. They have to punt. The Falcons then have to drive the ball down the field and score, which they hadn't done at all in the game. Yes, they would have had a shot, but I wouldn't say it lost them the game because they would have had to score, which they had trouble doing all games. So I I don't want to say it lost them the game, but it did make it a little bit a little rough for them. So after we both picked the Bucks there, but yeah, I mean the roughing the passer. I think it's all about quarterback safety now at this rate, just from the just since the Tua hits, which I looking at it, I don't even think the Tua hit was the second Tua hit. It didn't look as bad as it like the hit didn't look as bad as it was after he went down on the ground, obviously. But I think it's all about quarterback safety because there was another one in I believe the what game was it?
The Chiefs Raiders game.
I was gonna say I thought it was the Chief. I was gonna say I think it was the Chief Raider.
It was somehow worse than the Grady Jarrett one for the Falcons because Chris Jones had the ball. He stole it from the quarterback, yet they still called it.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was.
Passer, those two calls, you'll never be able to justify to me as to why that should have been roughing the passer. That is simply not an incorrect call. I mean, the Grady Jarrett one, he just grabbed him, kind of rolled him over, and they still tried to call it. I mean, that is awful
Officiating. Then going on to the Steelers-Bills game, I really don't think there's much to say to this game. Pittsburgh, I think at this point, is just a very bad team. Kenny Pickett threw the ball 52 times. You don't want that out of your rookie quarterback.
Especially when you have Najee Harris. But
he
couldn't really get anything going.
He couldn't do anything. Devin Singletary couldn't get anything. I have both of them on my fantasy team. I started Devin Singletary over Najee, thinking, the Bills are just going to swamp the Steelers, which they did. But if you look here, I'm pulling it up right now. Gabe Davis, you know that picture of Randy Moss smiling into the camera, and his says stat line under where it's like 3 receptions for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns? That was Gabe Davis in this game. 3 receptions, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So the running backs just barely touched the ball. So, I mean, Devin Singletary didn't do anything, which was not great. I needed him for fantasy, but I think Pittsburgh, they're just a bad team. They're a very bad team at this point. To the Miami and Jets game. Now, this one, I believe, looking at it, this was the first game that we picked separately. And you know what I didn't think of? You had the Jets winning, and you know what I didn't think about going into that game, thinking about that game?
The fact that Skylar Thompson was going to be their quarterback?
Well, okay, so it didn't start out that way. Teddy Bridgewater got hit and got sent into concussion protocol. So that changed it, but I totally forgot that Tua wasn't starting and that they didn't have their normal quarterback. So, but I mean, dude, the Jets just swamped the Dolphins. I mean,
they ran all over them, and it's like Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I want to say Breece Hall had a big game.
For 210 yards, that's not that great, but Breece Hall had an amazing game.
18 for 97 and a touchdown.
And 2 receptions for 100 yards.
Yeah, they schemed it up nicely for him on the receptions. But the one thing I did want to say, though, about the Dolphins, aside from getting absolutely thwomped, is Skylar Thompson. So I saw something that he was the assistant play call coordinator, which I think that just means he basically sat on the sideline and was the one like you see in college football, like holding up the signs. He just sits on the sideline with a headset on. Like, I don't think he actually plays quarterback. I think it was just kind of an emergency thing. And he had a decent game for, never like playing at all. 19 for 33 for 166. Normally you don't want that out of your quarterback, but not terrible. I mean, if I was the Jets, I'd be like, "Oh, we are feasting tonight." But yeah, I mean, he didn't play terrible. Well, yeah, I mean,
he didn't play terrible, but I mean, they didn't really play good. If you were just to take out the circumstances,
they only had 2 sacks.
Bad game from the quarterback.
They only had 2 sacks on the Dolphins, so I mean, judging by the situation, he didn't play terribly. That's really what I'm getting at. But yeah, you picked that right, and that's one of the ones that you got over me. That was one of the big ones. Then the Minnesota-Chicago game. nothing. I want to say Justin Fields actually played decently in this game.
He played okay, nothing special. 15 for 21,
But
200 yards and a touchdown. That's
if you
okay.
compare it to what he had been doing previously, then you realize that it actually isn't a terrible game. I believe this
Because
is like
they've been struggling to throw the ball.
this is one of the first. I think this is, if not the first game, maybe the second that he's passed for over 200 yards this season. So he's not. That's good for him. I think he's really starting to come on a little bit, especially since I didn't even think he was going to succeed in the NFL. But he's starting to come on a bit. So he didn't play terribly, but I mean, Justin Jefferson just absolutely tore them apart. 12 receptions, 154 yards. If you have him fantasy, that's huge. That's a solid 27 points there. Uh, and they got Dalvin Cook going, 94 yards and 2 touchdowns on 18 carries. So they got the entire offense going on that front. And then we both picked Minnesota in that one. Going to the Tennessee and Washington game, this is one of those games that we will talk about more in depth in our actual podcast. So if you guys want to go listen to that, it's probably Loving the District on Spotify and Apple. But I have to say, just from what I saw on Red Zone, I didn't get to watch the game fully, but from what I saw,
He played better.
I was going to say, you didn't play awful, but the final play of the game, the final plays of the game, I think is what killed you. Because Carson Wentz was just trying to shove it into, I don't know who your running back was that was on the field.
McKissick.
I was going to say, it definitely wasn't
Like,
Gibson.
that was a bad read, but I think one of the bigger issue is the coaching because Rivera, for some reason, challenged what was clearly like a Cam Sims thought he caught a ball, but it was kind of clear that the ball hit the ground in his hands. So he, for some reason, challenged it, and we lost it, obviously. So
Well, that's
we
one.
didn't have the time. We didn't have a timeout on the 2 yard line, and I disagree with the reads and the play calls because it didn't really look to the right side of the field, and it seemed like the main that those plays should be called for Armani Rogers or Cam Sims or Logan Thomas or our bigger guys. So
Now, I-
yeah, just
I do want to say just a couple quick things. One, Diami Brown decided today he's going to have the best game of his
yeah,
life.
like he-
2 receptions for
Wentz made
105
two
and 2
great
touchdowns.
throws.
Yeah, and Wentz, I mean, he put up pretty good numbers, 25 for 38, 359 and 2
He played
touchdowns.
good aside from those few reads, I'm blaming this loss predominantly on, again, the offensive line played like trash. Our defense actually played better, but I think the coaching is the problem.
The one thing I saw, so about that challenge, I don't know how it is in the NFL because obviously it's a more developed league, but in the PLL it's lacrosse. But in that, like, players will walk up to the coaches and be like, "Look, I made that. That's a goal. Challenge it and make sure it's right." So I mean, if Cam Sims went up to Rivera and was like, "Hey, I caught that ball," that could be the issue there with the challenge. So maybe that's. I'm not saying that's what happened. You never know, but
It's possible, but just looking at the initial replay, that like the first one you saw from the broadcast, you clearly saw that the ball hit the ground, the point of the football hit the turf, and it bobbled. So
yeah,
and
that's
we weren't exactly having troubles moving the ball, so I would have eaten that. I understand.
it's not a football move, but sometimes you gotta make that call.
You got to eat it because, I mean, we suffered because we couldn't run the ball on the 2 yard line. I think the play calling, the reads that were being made were just completely wrong. But Wentz had a good game. Besides that, he had almost 360 yards. You can't really ask for much more than that.
And but I mean, I didn't like the end of the game there where he was just trying to shove the ball there to J.D. McKissick. I mean,
Yeah,
he
that
went
just
3
wasn't the
straight
right
times to
call.
McKissick. I think they could just read it from there. Derrick Henry had a pretty decent game, 102 for 2 touchdowns. And last thing on the Commanders is Brian Robinson, bulk of the carries. Now, you guys didn't run the ball that much, but bulk of the carries.
We couldn't get it going. But
Yeah, so I mean
it's his
they're going
first
full fledged
game in
into.
the NFL, so I didn't really expect much. It's cool to see him back, but if we're able to get a run game going, then I think we can certainly win more games.
Yeah, so but getting him going, it looks like they're ready to take him in as the full offensive, running back and get him most of the carries. Seattle, New Orleans. This was the second of two. We only picked two differently this week, so this was the second one that we picked differently. You picked Seattle and I picked New Orleans, and I mean, it was a shootout. And if anyone started Taysom Hill this week in fantasy, you are laughing at your opponent because just off his rushing yards, you get three touchdowns, 112 yards. That's 30 points alone. Then it's only one. Then you get another 5 points for this passing touchdown for 22 yards. So I mean, he had a solid game. Alvin Kamara 6 for 91 receiving with another 103 rushing. So he finally looks like he's getting back. He's been struggling a bit this season. So it looks like Taysom Hill though is taking over a bulk of the. I think he's taking over a bulk of the offense now, like passing and everything. Because I know in one of my leagues, the manager banned the use of Taysom Hill in our league as a tight end because he's going to be playing quarterback. So, they won't. He said he's going to forcefully bench Taysom Hill, which I think I might have to do also. So, the Saints and Seahawks game. I mean, Geno Smith putting up numbers as the Seahawks quarterback. 268, 3 touchdowns, 16 for 25. And biggest story for the Seahawks, Rashad Penny's out for the season. Kenneth Walker, 8 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown. So he's going to be taking over a bulk of the runs for the Seahawks. Tyler Lockett, I know he had a long touchdown. I want to say like a 50-yard touchdown for the Seahawks. So Tyler Lockett had a decent day. DK Metcalf had a decent day. The Seahawks, I wouldn't say they're a good team, but I wouldn't say they're a terrible team.
No.
They're playing solid.
Broncos.
That's not that hard to do. Next, San Fran at Carolina. Not really much to say here. I like San Fran better with Jimmy G than with Trey Lance.
He just seems a lot more put together at this point.
Yeah, so the Carolina might be going down as the worst team in the NFL this season. They are playing poorly.
It got Matt Rule fired.
Yeah, Matt Rule got fired. Baker Mayfield, I don't know if he got benched or if he got injured, but Philip Walker, their backup, who, if you remember, played in the XFL, he got brought into the game. 5 for 6 for 60 yards.
I think Baker got hurt.
But yeah,
he's out 2 to 6 weeks.
Okay, so they're now on their third string because Sam Darnold's been hurt too. So 49ers look good and just take down Carolina easily. Next is the Philadelphia at Arizona game. First time the Eagles. Yeah, it was a close game. First time the Eagles win in Arizona since 2001, I believe. So it was a close game. Eagles went up 14-0 and then kind of gave the Cardinals life. The Cardinals defense came alive at the end. They changed from playing back and letting the offense take what they want to blitzing more, and that shut down the Eagles offense a little bit more. They ran a lot of screens and a lot of QB sneaks in this game. So that's where those 2 rushing touchdowns come from. I believe they ran 6 QB sneaks in this game. But overall, they won. They stay undefeated over the Cardinals. It was a bit scary, but I mean, the Cardinals are still a decent team. They have a decent defense. Their pass rush is really good. But their offense, once DeAndre Hopkins comes back, I think that 2 and 3 is going to totally flip because I think that's going to be a good team. Finishing it.
The problem is Hopkins is going to come back to like week 10 or something.
No, he's back not this week, but the week after. He only was suspended 6 games.
I'm thinking of Deshaun Watson.
Yes, Deshaun Watson comes back, I believe, week 13.
Yeah, it's late.
So, Rams-Cowboys. This was, in my opinion, the biggest shock of the week. We both picked the Rams here.
Rams to panic.
Yeah, the Rams look like they're in trouble. And okay, it's not Cooper Rush. I say, Cooper Rush is the truth as a joke, but look at this stat line. 10 for 16 for 102, no touchdowns, no interceptions. They are just feeding the running backs. I know Tony Pollard had I want to say like a 70-yard touchdown rush. So he had
8 carries for 86 yards.
well, yeah, and I think one of those was like 70. So
Ridiculous stat line. They couldn't really pass the ball though, obviously, but they just ran all over them. And their defense,
the defense just shut down the offense.
they didn't allow them to score. Like they got a lot of trash yards over the middle, but they couldn't score.
They had 5 sacks on the Rams. The Rams, I think the Rams' offensive line is killing them.
Yeah, and what is it going to take to get Allen Robinson some receptions?
Yeah, Allen Robinson has not been doing much. Cooper Kupp, he just gets so many receptions.
He had 7 for 125.
I want to say last week he had like 15 receptions. But yeah, I mean the Rams, they are not looking as hot as they did last season. Definitely, and the Cowboys defense looks better than I thought it would be. And it's not even. I don't even think the Rams played bad. I mean, look, total yards 323, averaging 5 yards per play, 14 first downs. The big thing right here, third down efficiency, 6 for 17. Not great third down numbers. You need to convert, and that's how you win games. And they just didn't do it. So they also lost 2 fumbles, and Matt Stafford threw an interception. So I think they just kind of shot themselves in the foot. Dallas won that game by defense, in my opinion. So Dallas looking decent. Again, not Cooper Rush, but their defense looks solid. The Ravens Bengals. I think the Bengals are the best 2-3 team in the NFL. I still don't think that they're out of it yet. I think Jamar Chase is. I think they're trying to put Jamar Chase as that Cooper Kupp. You know how Cooper Kupp is a very, crisp route runner and takes 10, 15 targets a game. I think Joe Burrow's doing the same with Jamar Chase and just kind of throwing it up there to Jamar Chase. Overall, it's an NFC North game, a division rival, so I wouldn't say it was a terrible game overall for him. Joe Burrow, 24 for 35, 217 with a touchdown and interception. Wouldn't say it was a terrible game, but Lamar had a solid game too. 19 for 32, 174 with a touchdown and interception, plus another 58 yards rushing. So not a terrible game overall, just a scrapped out NFC North division game.
Yeah, it was exciting, but a little ugly at times.
And to finish it out, this was another comeback win. I mean, I thought the Raiders were going to win this. They were up 20-10 in the third quarter.
Too, and they might have if Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow didn't run into each other.
And they sold at the end of the game. What is with these receivers this week? 3 for 124 and 2 touchdowns. No one wanted to cover over the top this week, I guess. Jeez.
Well, and then he pushed a cameraman down.
Yeah, I saw that. He was
went
not
to the hospital as well.
But yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things, leading another comeback. 29 for 43, 292, and 4 touchdowns. Like, that is just absurd. Jerick McKinnon looked good, too. 8 carries for 53 yards. He's an older guy, too, which is kind of surprising. But, I mean, dude, the receptions. Travis Kelce was the guy I wanted to talk about. 4 touchdowns, all in the red zone, too. He only had 7 receptions for 25 yards, but it was the 4 touchdowns. So, Travis Kelce had a big day. Other than that, I mean, Chiefs come back 4-1. They're rolling. The Bills are rolling. The Eagles are rolling. Raiders blew it. But I mean, it was a solid game or a solid week. It was just a weird week. I mean, I thought Jacksonville should have won easily, handily. I thought Green Bay. Hopefully this week should be a little bit better, and we'll move over into that right now. Going from that, we have the Week 6 matchup. Week 6 matchups. Yeah, we'll start on Thursday. with Thursday, and here is our predictions for this past week one more time. Jacob, you are 16-17 on the season, and I'm 21-12. Now the big difference here is that from this week is that the one you picked, we both went 9-7 this week because you picked the Jets to win, and then you picked what was the other one we had different? The Seahawks to win, and we just had it switched. So I mean, we both went 9-7. But to go to next week, Thursday Night Football, Commanders in Chicago. I'm not looking forward to this game. This is going to be another bad Thursday Night Football game, as much as I hate to.
An ugly game. The Bears struggle to really throw the ball, and we're looking better. And I shouldn't say that about last week, but we've improved in terms of our run defense. I think we're going to win, but I think it's going to be a very ugly game, and I think there's a lot of turmoil going on in the team right now.
As much as I want to pick Chicago to win,
I do too, but I can't.
I just don't. I don't think that they have the weapons. I mean, I think
They don't have the facilities.
yeah. So, and Washington looked decent against Tennessee. So, I will take Washington in this one, but I think this could go either way. This is one that I wouldn't be shocked that I would want to switch to Chicago on, and I wouldn't be shocked if Chicago
wins. This
wins.
is going to be a barn burner, folks.
All right, Baltimore. This is really the first team that the Giants are playing that would actually, maybe give them a little bit of a test, because I mean the Green Bay secondary is off, or not secondary. Their receivers are awful.
The two best running quarterbacks in the league.
So with the Giants, the Ravens at the Giants. This is another one that I think we're going to pick the same, and I'm taking the Ravens here. If the Giants win this game, I will say the Giants are true and an actual competitor.
Yeah, I'm wrong about the Giants from what I said a few months ago, but I just don't think they're good enough to beat the Ravens.
Yes, I don't think that they've really... Now, look, every team in the NFL is a good team. It's not because, they are actually terrible. It's just their pieces aren't fitting together. So no team in the NFL is terrible. Obviously, they're going to win, but just compared to the others, I think the Giants are just getting lucky with the teams that they play. An AFC South matchup in Indianapolis, Jacksonville visiting the Colts, which I don't know how the Colts are in the AFC South. I've thought about that a couple times, but anyway, that's besides the point.
How are the Cowboys in the NFC East?
Yeah, that's another one that throws me off.
The Ravens.
But, so Jacksonville going to Indianapolis. This one, I think Jacksonville's got to bounce back from that loss. I think they are going to win this game. I don't like the way that Indianapolis has been playing.
I don't either. This is partly trying me to wish things into reality, but I think Taylor's going to come back and have a good game, and I think the Colts will beat the Jags.
Wow, really? You just want your trade to come to fruition and be beneficial.
Well, I'm playing Azim this week, so I need to win.
Going to the next game, New England going to Cleveland. This one, battle of the backups in Jacoby Brissett and Bailey Zappi. This is a weird one, and I'm not sure how to feel about it.
I'm gonna go with the Browns, I guess.
Really? All right, so I'm thinking
teams that can really run the ball good, and like Brissett has actually looked somewhat decent.
I didn't even think about the run game. I was thinking more about the pass game, but yeah, I think this is going to be another ground pound game. This is going to be a Big Ten looking game.
This is like an old school football game.
Yeah, so I don't know which way I'm going to go with here. You know what? And I'm going to choose Bailey Zappi here because actually, no. I got to be real because let's say it does come down to the pass game. You look at the Patriots receivers next to the Cleveland receivers. Cleveland is miles above the...
Amari Cooper is a beast.
Amari Cooper has been going off this season. So, yeah, I got to pick Cleveland there. Plus Nick Chubb, another guy who's... Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, the best running back duo in the league. Cincinnati at New Orleans. Like I said, Cincinnati's the best 2-3 team. I'm picking Cincinnati every day here.
I am too.
The New Orleans doesn't look terrible, but I want. I think since this might just be me wanting it to happen, but Cincinnati, I don't think is a bad team. I don't think their record speaks to who they are. I don't think who they lost to speaks to who they are. I think Joe Burrow, and especially coming into the season, everyone thought that you know Cincinnati wasn't going to do it again. Wasn't going to go to the Super Bowl. And I'm not saying they're going to go to the Super Bowl again, but I don't think they're going to be a 4-win team again. So I'm picking Cincinnati here over the Saints.
Yeah, I still
Tampa
think they're a pretty good team.
Tampa Bay at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's just a bad team. I'm going Tampa here.
Um,
You
when
picking
I
an
try
upset?
and think, well, yeah, when I try and think logically about these things, we've seen that I can't predict worth crap. I mean, go back to when we started this thing, my track record is pretty awful. So I'm trying to think outside the box and go against my own logic. I'm picking the Steelers.
Wow. That's
And I'm
Picking
probably
an
just
upset.
outsmarted myself there.
yeah. I think you just reverse psychologied yourself into an L.
The Giselle effect is going to be real for the Bucks.
Yeah, but I think it's more helping Brady. Now Brady's like, I could play forever.
Well, yeah, but he's not exactly looked sharp this season.
He's gonna be out there with a bionic arm when he's 90.
Well, yeah, their offensive line is really struggling.
Going to San Fran at Atlanta. This one, I really like San Fran this season. Now that with Jimmy G back, I'm liking San Fran. I don't think
I gotta go
Atlanta's
with San Fran.
I don't think Atlanta's looking as bad as they used to, but
Yeah. Just
or
still
as
not
we thought they
great.
would. Yeah, Kyle Pitts hasn't come up yet. He needs to get
He hasn't scored a touchdown outside the UK.
he hasn't he got a lot of yards last season. He broke 1,000 yards, and
He gets a lot of yards, but no looks in the red zone.
yeah, so he needs to get the ball rolling this season. He hasn't even gotten that many yards this season, so he needs to get the ball rolling. Drake London looks decent for the Falcons, so that looks good for them. The Jets at Green Bay.
I got to go with the Jets. Brees Hall.
You're sticking with the Jets here?
Well, since the start of this year, I didn't think the Packers were going to be a good team. I'm pretty sure I've said this because I just don't like how the team's constructed at this point and how Aaron Rodgers handled the offseason. And we've seen that the Packers have struggled with a running team in the Giants, so I got to go with the Jets.
Initially, when I first looked at this matchup just now, I thought back to the Miami game and I thought Jets. Then logically, I thought it's not going to be the Jets. It's got to be the Packers. But you know what? I'm going to stick with it. It's got to be the Packers. I mean, come on. It's Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are another really good running back tandem, and I like them over the Jets
Hall and the other
defense.
one.
Yes, Michael Carter, the other one. That would be Michael Carter. Yes, but I don't know. I think A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, they run the table when they play. So as long as they continue to do that and don't focus on the pass, I think they can beat the Jets. Minnesota going to Hard Rock Stadium down in Miami.
I think this is pretty simple. This has got to be the Vikings, considering what the Dolphins have at quarterback.
I would have to agree. I got to go with Minnesota just because Miami still doesn't have a solid quarterback. So I'm going to agree with you there. Carolina at the Rams. This has to be the Rams. I can't say revenge tour, but this has got to be, their makeup game. They've been
And the Panthers just fired their coach, so this has to be the Rams.
that's one of the most dangerous teams to fool around with. I mean, look at the Phillies. So
Yeah, I'd rather not talk about that. I have to tomorrow. I've royally jacked this up.
yeah, I think the Rams should win this one. Arizona at Seattle. Like I just said, I don't think Arizona is a terrible team. They're one game away from getting DeAndre back, DeAndre Hopkins, and Marquise Brown. He's a solid receiver. Him and Kyler Murray get along really well chemistry wise.
He'll be a good wide receiver number 2 to Hopkins when he gets back.
Yeah, but I'm picking Arizona in this one. I mean, Seattle doesn't have that Legion of Boom like they used to, so I'm definitely gonna stick with Arizona in this one.
Even though I do like Geno Smith.
Now, this game, Geno Smith going back to his West Virginia